Shedeur Sanders was mistreated and mishandled with the NFL draft situation, and we're gonna talk about it. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's try not to make excuses because I've seen all the conversations online with everybody with their think piece, especially those who don't look like me. Some have, but the nonsense to say that, like, oh well, he just wasn't a top 10 quarterback. When you look at the stats compared to like some of the quarterbacks that were drafted before him, it's mind-boggling that he went so late. The fact that people try to use the excuse that, oh, he just wasn't elite, but just a couple weeks ago, in the past year, he should have been a top 5 draft pick. He was one of like what two quarterbacks that should have went in the top 5, but he didn't. And here's the thing: we're gonna call it what it is. It was racism. It was a moment that they had control, that they wanted to abuse. They abused their power to try to humble him. You know what I'm saying? And they wanted to send a message not only just to him but to his father. You know, and I feel like that's cowardly. You know what I mean? And then for the situation to happen with the guy that prank called him, he gets a pass and says, they say that, oh, it's just a prank. He's a kid. He's 21. That's a grown man. It was childish. It was ignorant. And not only him, but his father, who's a coach, should be held accountable for that. Like, an apology doesn't mean nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen a conversation and people are like, oh, well, you know, he wasn't good and this, that, and the third. Like, nah, the kid was amazing. Y'all don't know what y'all want. Because on one hand, he needs to be humble and, you know, this, that, and the third. And then on the other hand, when you look at Jalen Hurts, is a prime example. Jalen Hurts is quiet. He's meek. He kind of just stayed to himself. He's not really like loud and you know what I'm saying? He just kind of like, he's cool, calm, and collected for the most part. And they complained about that. The media complained about that. Like, oh, he needs to show a little bit more personality as a black man. And then turn around and a black man who is extremely confident about himself, who's secure within who he is, who came from a loving family, football family, Hall of Fame family, you know, good father. Jalen Hurts and Shedeur Sanders both came from solid families. One quiet, confident, but quiet and just kind of neutral. The other one confident and shows it. And they both are a problem. So I don't like the conversation talking point of he needs to be humble and this, that, and the third, because it doesn't matter. As a black man in this country, it doesn't matter. You can play by the rules. That kid maintained, from what I understand, like a 3.9, 4.0 GPA in the classroom throughout college, and yet that somehow got overshadowed. I personally stopped watching the NFL years ago when everything happened with Kaepernick. That was enough for me because I saw it for what it was. And I wish that we as a community could get on the same page and we all would have said, you know what, let's hit him in the pockets. Let's be done with it. But instead, you know, you had those few that were targeted who decided to be a voice and decided to stand for something and ultimately got kicked out, versus if they all of the brothers in the league were on the same page and say, nah, we're not having that. We standing with Cap here, man. And a lot of things could have changed, but instead now we end up in a situation like this with Shedeur. You know, and I pray and hope nothing but the best for him, because you call it what it is, we see it for what it is. I personally, again, I support the brothers who, you know, Travis and all those cats who just came out or whatever, and I want them to succeed. I won't be watching it though. As a community, we gotta stand for something. That was very childish of the NFL and these owners and whoever's in the front office to allow such a thing to happen. Nobody wanting to watch the draft. Nobody watches the draft. People only in our community, my community, for the most part, we just wanted to see what certain people win. And Shedeur was one of those people. We wanted to see what Travis went, and we wanted to see what Shedeur went. So, I saw Lou Young say, y'all got what y'all wanted. Y'all got the views. It's probably one of the most watched draft ever because he fell so long. So people were only watching to see where he would go. It's shameful. It's shameful. And I wish my people would understand that we don't have to sit at their tables. We have to get to a point where sports become secondary to prospering, growing, and getting money. Because there ain't no black owners in the NFL. They want your body, but don't want you in positions of leadership. They don't want you, running an organization. Why couldn't that black man, that kid, become the face of an organization to lead an organization? We talking about, my home city team, the Saints, who had an opportunity to get a quarterback that can lead and get them back to Super Bowl, a Super Bowl caliber team, a playoff caliber team. But nah, instead they draft some 7-year college vet who film was horrible, but yet he somehow went above Shedeur. And wherever this is to try to send a message to the Sanders family, like, y'all can't break them people's spirits, and they're gonna be all right regardless of what happens moving forward. Regardless of what happens moving forward, they're gonna be fine. But it just goes to show you the hate that lives within that community, within their community. And what hurts the most through it all is seeing my people that look like me, people that look like Shedeur, literally try to crucify him. Because I'm not going to be humble for nobody. If you look up the definition of humble, why would you want to be that? That black man's confidence is a threat to a lot of y'all insecurities, and that's word to his father, word to his daddy. Deion said, don't let my confidence basically, ruffle your insecurities. Y'all are mad because that kid believed in himself. Y'all are mad because he came from a good background. He didn't have a struggle story. He came from a loving family, a mother, father, brothers, sisters, a supportive people. But there was no story. There was no struggle story. There was no getting it out the mud story that the media could run with. So they made up every excuse in the book. Every excuse in the book. I don't want no parts of the NFL. Like, it's like I'm cool on it. I hope Shedeur can go and be great in Cleveland, but I can even see that becoming an issue. I can see how they're gonna try to manipulate that and run that story, because at the end of the day, the 144 pick was more talked about than the first pick. Make that make sense. A lot of insecurity of grown white men in power that led to this happening. You mean to tell me he wasn't good enough to go to Pittsburgh? He wasn't good enough to go to New York? I saw like the headline of the New York Giants coach saying basically something to the extent he didn't have a good interview with Shedeur. Nah, let's keep it a buck. Y'all didn't want the kid, so y'all was gonna find an excuse to not like him anyway. Y'all didn't like who his father was. But I can guarantee you one thing, mark my word, the Giants have a poor season, that same coach will be out of a job because he sucked for the past 3 years. That organization has been horrible. But it goes to show you how Even with somebody like Coach Tomlin, who I have mad respect for, even with somebody like him, at the end of the day, he still doesn't have the final say so. Because there was no reason why he shouldn't have went to Pittsburgh when they had the opportunity, considering they need a quarterback. This was nothing but racism, bug breaking, if that's what you want to call it. It is shameful, and just like the black community has handled Target, and pretty much just like say forget it, and we've watched their numbers plummet for standing on business. Why aren't we doing the same thing with the NFL? We should have been done this with the NFL. It's okay to be abusers and everything like that, but don't you dare be a confident black man. Don't you dare come from a good family, because now you're public enemy number one. To allude to he has to get it out the mud and earn his keep, as if he's not a hard worker. The kid has been a football player his entire life, but the issue is his father. Because y'all think he's arrogant, when it's simply confidence, because people like Baker Mayfield and your Tim Tebow's and your Johnny Manziel's who came out, they were allowed to be themselves. It was, they got a lot of grit. They can be rough around the edges and stuff like that. But when a black man do it, it's a problem. It's called a spade a spade. We don't have no business going to no football games. We don't got no business watching those football games, buying no merchandise from them people. You hear me? None whatsoever. And I hope and pray that my people can get on board. I don't know what it's going to take. If this wasn't a message, because people went back to watching the sports and watching it after the Colin Kaepernick situation, when that should have been the nail in the coffin for that organization. But because we as a community allowed them to manipulate that and sweep that under the rug, here we are. Here we are dealing with Shedeur and the mistreatment and the blackballing that happened. So again, as a community, we got to do better. We got to stop, depending on them. And to the parents, the black parents out there, man, that's, that have kids in sports that want to go to the league, specifically the football league. Be mindful, man. Make sure your kid has another option. Make sure football isn't the emphasis. Because if they done it to a Hall of Fame player who gave they all to that league, if they done it to his son, that thing shall do it to yours. Your kid shouldn't have to be humble, shouldn't have to make himself small, or make grown men feel comfortable, or make other people feel comfortable. If my confidence offends your insecurity, that's a you problem. So to the black parents out there, man, push something else. Definitely push education. Push education, man. I know they love the game and love football, but man, we it's time for us as a people to start leaning back from stuff like that. Even with some of these colleges, these big D1 schools like Ohio State, who roll back their DEI initiatives and stuff like that. Why would you want to send your kid to a college like that doesn't care about them? That doesn't care about equality and inclusion and stuff. That basically say, yeah, we love you on the field, but you still black and we don't care about it that much. When they show you who they are, believe them. And these organizations like Target have showed us countless times who they are. You don't need to watch football. And I get it, when it comes to the pros and stuff like that, that's the way out. That's the way for people to say that they made it. That can be life-changing for not only that individual, but for their families. But man, At what cost? Because not only were they trying to break Shedeur's spirit with this whole foolishness, they were trying to break the spirit of every other black boy and black man in this country with this stunt. And I hope it comes to backfire on them. But we have to get away from like needing them and wanting to join them, instead just create our own stuff. But the problem with that, and that's a video for another time, is that when we do create our own stuff, we don't support it. But there has to be other ways than a league to become successful. Because no black boy or black girl for that matter, because they've done and are continuing to do the same thing to Angel Reese. She's another example of like they want to humble her. She needs to be humbled. Like, no, she's a dog. She's a baller. You hear me? She's good at what she does. She's a winner. But they find every excuse. Like, come on now. We got to do better, man. We got to protect our black athletes, especially the ones, that's for the people, that's for the community. We got to protect them, because again, if they doing what they did to Shedeur, if they can do that to him, they'll do it to the next player. Don't dim your light for nobody. Don't make yourself small for nobody. Wear your confidence with pride. Fix your crown. Don't let them break or bend your spirit. Know who you are. Know that greatness is not only in you, but it's on you. So again, I wish Shedeur nothing but the best, and moving forward. And I hope he gets a fair opportunity to show himself, and pray for the young brother. Just pray for the young brother. So with that being said, I appreciate you for tuning in to another episode of A Quick Little Word podcast. And I want you to keep in mind that, you will be blocked if you come over here with the foolishness, the racism, and the antics, and trying to twist the story, because even Stevie Wonder can see and understand what happened. But make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. And till next time, make sure you check out the description, though, for the links to all of the information, the podcast audio, my book, A Quick Little Word, Slut Devotional, my merch, Facients.com. It's a complete brand. It's not just merch. Make sure you check that out, though, man. And until next time, peace, love, and happiness.